Late start to this meeting. We had an all-senators meeting with President Zelensky from Ukraine, which went a little over. So we are starting a little late, but we'll make up for that time in the minutes to come. Today we're considering 4 nominations. Thomas G. Day to serve as a commissioner for the Postal Regulatory Commission, as well as Catherine Oller, Judith Pipe, and Charles Willoughby, Jr. to be associate judges on the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. Welcome to each of our nominees and to those joining them today's hearing. Congratulations on your nomination, and thank you for your willingness to serve in these very important positions. Each of these roles are essential to the federal government as well as the District of Columbia. The Postal Regulatory Commission is a bipartisan body that provides key oversight for the Postal Service. Countless families rely on the Postal Service each and every day. This commission helps to ensure that they are most effectively serving the American people. Last week, we were able to advance 1 nominee for the Postal Regulatory Commission with unanimous bipartisan support. And I hope we can do the same for Mr. Day's nomination and ensure that the commission remains fully staffed and best positioned to carry out its very important work. I'd also like to thank Ranking Member Paul for working with me to quickly move Mr. Day's nomination through the committee process. The D.C. Superior Court functions as the state-level trial court in the nation's capital. The court has an extraordinary high number of cases, and each one impacts the livelihoods of individuals and families all across the District of Columbia. Unfortunately, judicial vacancies place serious burdens on judges and delay resolutions for the parties before the court. Filling open seats will help the court conduct its work more efficiently and provide better service to the people of the district. So welcome again to all 4 of you. Today's hearing is an important opportunity for the committee to learn more about your qualifications and how you plan to serve in these new roles. It is the practice of this committee to swear in witnesses, so if each of you would please rise and raise your right hands. Do you swear the testimony you will give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. You may be seated. Our first nominee is Thomas G. Day, nominated to be Commissioner on the Postal Regulatory Commission. Mr. Day has served in the federal government for 45 years in both the U.S. Army and the U.S. Postal Service. During his 35 years at the Postal Service, he served in senior roles including Vice President of Engineering, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs, Senior Vice President of Intelligent Mail, and Chief Sustainability Officer. From 2000, Universal Postal Union, the UN agency that governs the international exchange of mail. Since his retirement from the U.S. Postal Service in 2019, Mr. Day has worked at the International Post Corporation at West Point with a B.S. in engineering. He has an M.A. in management from Central Michigan University and was a Sloan Fellow at the Graduate School of Business at Stanford University with an M.S. in management. Mr. Day, welcome to the committee. You may proceed with your opening remarks.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Paul, and distinguished members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today and for your consideration of my qualifications to be a commissioner of the Postal Regulatory Commission. I would also like to thank President Biden for the opportunity he has afforded me through this nomination, and I'm honored by his trust. My wife, Young, has joined me today in this important event in our life together. We just recently celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary. Our 2 sons, Bill and Jim, and their wives, Lindsay and Gabby, along with our 5 grandchildren, could not join us today, but I'm very thankful to all the support I've received from my family through the years. Almost my entire adult life has been in service to my country in either the U.S. Army or the U.S. Postal Service. It's a 3-generation tradition in my family, with both my father and grandfather having spent their working careers as employees of the post office and as members of the American Postal Workers Union. I've prided myself for serving in the federal government, and I look forward to this opportunity to do it again. My experience at the Postal Service is at every level of management, from frontline supervisor to senior officer, and everything in between. My experience has been in a wide array of functional areas, including delivery, customer service, processing, transportation, engineering, and government relations, and the staff of the Postal Regulatory Commission. In this role, I understood the need for cooperation and engagement between the Postal Service and the PRC to ensure that decisions were made in an appropriate and timely manner. During my time at the Postal Service, I also chaired the Standards Board at the Universal Postal Union. The UPU is the United Nations agency with responsibility for the oversight and exchange of mail and packages among postal operators on a global basis. After retiring from the Postal Service, I served as the Chief Commercial and Chief Financial Officer of the International Post Corporation. The IPC is a not-for-profit organization comprised of 25 postal operators, including the U.S. Postal Service, which represents almost 80% of the global mail volume. The experience at both the UPU and the IPC has provided me with a broad perspective into a variety of postal operators around the world. I've seen firsthand the success and failure of these organizations, as well as the operations and data management of a variety of posts. My experience in the Postal Service and the interaction with other posts is an excellent fit to serve as a commissioner. I can fully grasp the issues at hand and how they may impact service standards and performance measurement, potential cross-subsidization, transparency, and accountability. This is in keeping with the legislatively defined role of the Regulatory Commission. This is a critical time for the Postal Service. It is certainly the most momentous change the Postal Service has experienced since it was created under the old Post Office Department in 1970. The legislation that created the Postal Service in 1970 also created the Postal Regulatory Commission, originally the Postal Rate Commission. The various updates to Title 39 have continued to emphasize the importance of an independent regulator. The role of the regulator is clear: rate regulation, service standards, and service performance to ensure fair competition, to enforce the transparency and accountability of the Postal Service. The critical time for the Postal Service comes after more than a decade of transition that is largely due to the impact of e-communications and e-commerce. E-communications has directly caused the ongoing decline of first-class mail volume, formerly the very core of the Postal Service network, as well as the source of critical income. E-commerce has resulted in the extensive use of online shopping and the need to effectively manage processing, transport, and delivery of these items. In turn, there's also a need for an effective network that can manage the items that are being returned. Because of this dramatic decrease in traditional mail volumes, combined with the increase in package volume, there's an absolute need to modify the postal network. The Delivering for America 10-year plan is the Postal Service effort to modify that network. I agree, there is a need for modification. In keeping with legislative direction provided in Title 39, it is essential that the PRC provide the oversight to ensure that the implementation of DFA is accomplished in a manner that provides fair competition, accountability, and transparency. I am uniquely qualified to serve as a commissioner. My educational training, combined with experience in domestic and global postal sector, provides me with the ability to understand the issues of importance. I'm committed to working with the Postal Service and all of its key stakeholders to find the optimal, practical solutions to create a postal system to best serve our country. I'm honored to have been considered to serve in this role, and I hope you will confirm my nomination so that I may do so.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Before we turn to the judges, in addition to our nominees and their families here, which welcome all the families, we're going to be talking about the PRC. We actually have a current PRC commissioner in the audience. I want to recognize Ashley Poling, who's our current commissioner, so we'll be talking a lot about the PRC, and I'll just say that part of her past experience, she was a member of my staff here on the committee, so has outstanding credentials, so thank you for being here. And now let's turn to, what's that? Oh, please raise your hand so everybody sees you. That was Senator Carper's request. Our next, we'll now turn to the court here. Our next nominee is Special Master Catherine Oller, nominated to be an Associate Judge on the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. She has served as a court-appointed Special Master for the U.S. Court of Federal Claims since 2017. Previously, Special Master Oller served as an Air Force Judge Advocate from 1996 to 2017, retiring from active duty as a colonel. Among other assignments, she served as the Air Force's Chief Prosecutor and Chief Government Appellate Counsel at Joint Base Andrews, Staff Judge Advocate at Joint Base San Antonio Randolph, and as Deputy Chief Trial Judge of the Air Force. She received her JD from Boston University School of Law in '96 and her BA from Wesley College in 1993. Special Master Oller, it's wonderful to have you here. You may proceed with your opening remarks.
Good morning and thank you. Chairman Peters, Ranking Member Paul, and members of this committee. I am deeply honored by the opportunity to appear before you today as a nominee to be an Associate Judge on the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. I would like to thank you and your committee staff for considering my nomination. I am especially grateful to President Biden for nominating me for this position. I would also like to thank the D.C. Judicial Nomination Commission, chaired by the Honorable Marie Johns, for recommending me to the White House. I would not be here today without the tremendous love and support of my family. Here with me today is my husband of nearly 24 years, Colonel Retired Adam Oller, our two incredible teenage children, who are undoubtedly my greatest accomplishment, my sister-in-law, Dr. Allison Oller Zipari, my cousin, Lee Sanger, and her husband, Jeffrey Sanger, my mother, Margaret Ellsworth, who worked tirelessly for 30 years as a school teacher and has been my lifelong cheerleader and supporter. My father, Paul Ellsworth, could not be here today due to health reasons, but I want to thank him for his unwavering love and support over the years. In addition to my family, I am grateful to the countless fellow service members whom I had the privilege of serving alongside for over 20 years. I hope in some way my presence here today can be seen as a reflection of their service and commitment, which is part and parcel of my own. I am the fourth generation of my family to be born in Washington, D.C. Though I grew up elsewhere, I returned to this city during and after my military service. My decision to join the Air Force was motivated by a lifelong desire to serve my country and my community. Earning my commission also added to my family's long history of military service. My father enlisted in the Army during the Vietnam era. My grandfather joined the submarine service as a teenager early in World War II and fought across the Pacific. My great-grandfather served in the artillery in France at the end of World War I and is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. During my 21 years on active duty, I had the opportunity to serve across our great country and all over the world, performing legal work that was both inspiring and challenging. My service as a prosecutor gave me the opportunity to work on scores of complex felony cases. It taught me the importance of hard work, preparation, and how critical it is to demonstrate the highest degree of professionalism, both as an attorney and an officer. More fundamentally, the cases I tried imparted upon me that every case is distinct, and that the fair and timely administration of justice is at the very heart of our judicial system. Those were the lessons that I took with me to the trial bench, where I served for 3 years as my service's Deputy Chief Trial Judge, and that I keep with me today in my current role as a Special Master on the United States Court of Federal Claims. Over my 26-year legal career, I have spent nearly 9 years on the bench. I believe this work has prepared me exceptionally well to serve as a D.C. Superior Court judge. If I am fortunate enough to be confirmed, I would serve this city with the same level of dedication, hard work, and uncompromising commitment to the fair administration of justice that has guided me throughout my career. Thank you for your consideration of my nomination, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Your opening statement. Our next nominee is Judge Judith Pipe, nominated to be an Associate Judge on the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. Judge Pipe has served as a magistrate judge for the District of Columbia Superior Court since 2020. Previously, she served as a staff attorney and a supervising attorney with the Public Defender Service for the District of Columbia from 2007 to 2019. She received her JD from Catholic University's Columbus School of Law, magna cum laude, in 2007, and her BA from American University, cum laude, in 2003. Welcome, Judge Pipe. You may proceed with your opening remarks.
Good morning, and thank you. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I am humbled and honored to appear before you today as a nominee to be an associate judge of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. I would like to thank each of you for considering my nomination and the committee staff for their hard work in preparing for this hearing. I thank the D.C. Judicial Nomination Commission and its chair, the Honorable Marie Johns, for recommending me to the White House, and President Joseph Biden for nominating me. I wish to recognize and thank Chief Judge Anita Josie Herring for her leadership and support, and former Chief Judge Robert Morin for encouraging me throughout my career and for appointing me to my current position as a magistrate judge in Superior Court. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge my family, whose support has been critical to me reaching this honor of being before you today. First, to my husband, Chris Pipe, for his patience, support, and encouragement since the first day we met 21 years ago. Together, we have raised two amazing children who are here with me today. They are my greatest pride and joy, and I cannot wait to see the amazing adults and community members they will undoubtedly become. I would like to thank my parents, Dr. Jeffrey Malka and Dr. Susan Gelfand Malka, who have unconditionally supported me throughout my life. They have constantly emphasized and exemplified that a life of service to your community is a life well lived. I would like to thank my sisters, Jennifer Rudeau and Deborah Friedman, who have also led lives of service to their communities. Jennifer is a special education teacher, and Deborah is an oncology nurse. A special thank you to my oldest sister, Dorothy Malka, who has lived her whole life paralyzed and with a significant brain injury. She is the kindest and gentlest person I know, and has been a constant inspiration to me throughout my life. I have dedicated my legal career to public service in the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. I currently serve as a magistrate judge in both the criminal and domestic violence divisions of Superior Court. Since my appointment to that position in January of 2020, I have served on some of the most high-volume calendars and presided over hundreds of arraignments, preliminary hearings, and domestic violence temporary protection order hearings. In 2022, I was assigned to a misdemeanor traffic calendar where I presided over a dozen bench trials, hundreds of guilty pleas, sentencing, and a variety of other hearings that occur in the life of a criminal case. In that role, I cleared a backlog of cases that had accumulated over the pandemic by setting reasonable deadlines and coming to the courtroom prepared on the law and the facts. On every calendar I have presided over, I have consistently and repeatedly demonstrated my commitment to neutrality by objectively applying the law to the facts in every case before me. Prior to my appointment as a magistrate judge, I served first as a staff attorney and then as a supervising attorney at the Public Defender Service for the District of Columbia. In that role, I handled hundreds of cases from their arraignment to their conclusion in Superior Court. As a litigator, I was in court daily and appeared before dozens of current and former judges of Superior Court. I am thankful to have those judges support me throughout my career and during this process. It has been a great honor to serve the District of Columbia community in Superior Court. I am humbled by the opportunity, if confirmed, to continue my commitment to public service and the rule of law by becoming an associate judge. I thank you for considering my nomination. I look forward to answering any questions you have. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Judge Pipe. Our final nominee is Charles Willoughby, nominated to be an associate judge on the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. Mr. Willoughby has served as an assistant United States attorney in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia since 2014. He has held multiple leadership roles in that office and was appointed as a deputy chief in the major crime section of the Superior Court Division in 2023. Previously, Mr. Willoughby was an assistant attorney general in the criminal division of the Virgin Islands Department of Justice. He received a JD from Howard University School of Law in 2007, a BA from Belmont University in 2002, and a BA from Morehouse College in 2000. Mr. Willoughby, welcome to the committee. You may proceed with your opening remarks.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Chairman Peters, Ranking Member Paul, and members of the committee. I am humbled, honored, and grateful to appear before you today as you consider my nomination to be an associate judge of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. I would also like to extend my sincere appreciation to the District of Columbia Judicial Nomination Commission and its chair, the Honorable Marie C. Johns, for recommending me to the White House, and President Joseph R. Biden for nominating me. Additionally, I would like to express my utmost gratitude to the current U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Matthew Graves, as well as former U.S. Attorneys Ronald Machen, Vincent Cohen, Jesse Liu, and Channing Phillips for their leadership and support. I would also like to thank former U.S. Attorney for the U.S. Virgin Islands, Ronald Sharp, for his guidance and mentorship throughout my legal career. I'm thankful to my current and former colleagues at the U.S. Attorney's Office, the many law enforcement officials with whom I've had the opportunity to work, and the Defense Bar of the District of Columbia, who have all in some form or fashion inspired, encouraged, and challenged me. There are no words to capture the appreciation and love that I reserve for my family and close friends, some of whom are with us today. It is because of their unwavering and unconditional support that I sit before you today. Born as the eldest of two sons of Charles Willoughby Sr. and Brenda Atkinson Willoughby, here in Washington, D.C., my parents instilled in me early on the importance of being a public servant. My father, an attorney, worked as a public servant in local and federal agencies for most of his legal career, including the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia. My mother, an educator and administrator, served in various capacities in public schools and in institutions of higher education throughout D.C. While my late father is not with us today, it brings me great joy to have my mother in attendance. She continues to inspire me and reminds me of the importance of serving my community. As a second-generation Washingtonian, it is a great honor to be considered for a judgeship on a court that I first visited as a young child more than 30 years ago, where my father appeared when he was an assistant U.S. attorney. Some of my fondest memories are of watching him in court, and it was no surprise to many when I followed in his footsteps and attended the Howard University School of Law just as he had done. Also with me today is my beautiful wife, Cassandra Vincent. We met in St. Thomas, where she was employed as a detective for the U.S. Virgin Islands Police Department, and I was beginning my career as a prosecutor. Her love and dedication are underscored by the fact that she graciously relocated from her beautiful native island to support me when the opportunity arose for me to serve as an assistant U.S. attorney in the District of Columbia. Cassandra and I are blessed to have 3 sons, my 2 stepsons, Emilio and Dante, who could not be with us today, and our youngest son, Chaz, who is here. Shortly after graduating from Howard, I began my legal career as an assistant attorney general in St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where I began prosecuting misdemeanor matters and was soon elevated to prosecuting violent crime felonies. In 2014, after 5 years on the island, I returned to D.C. to join the U.S. Attorney's Office, where I have served as an assistant U.S. attorney for almost a decade. During my tenure at the U.S. Attorney's Office, I have appeared in both D.C. Superior Court and the United States District Court for the District of Columbia, prosecuting a wide range of criminal matters, including homicides and cybercrimes. Throughout the course of my legal career, I have made it a priority to exercise sound judgment, be respectful to all whose paths I crossed, and above all, maintain fidelity to the law. I am grateful for the opportunity to serve the residents and community of the District of Columbia in a new role if I am fortunate enough to be confirmed to be an associate judge. Again, I thank you for your consideration of my nomination, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Willoughby. There are 3 questions that the committee asks of every nominee. So I'm going to ask each of you to respond briefly with either a yes or no. We'll start with Mr. Day and then just work down the dais for these 3 questions. First, is there anything you are aware of in your background that might present a conflict of interest with the duties of the office to which you have been nominated?
No.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
Second, do you know of anything, personal or otherwise, that would in any way prevent you from fully and honorably discharging the responsibilities of the office to which you have been nominated?
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
No, Senator.
And lastly, do you agree without reservation to comply with any request or summons to appear and testify before any duly constituted committee of the U.S. Congress if you are confirmed?
Yes, Senator.
Yes, Senator.
Yes, Senator.
Yes, Senator.
Very well, thank you. Mr. Day, the Postal Regulatory Commission plays an absolutely critical role in conducting oversight of the Postal Service, as you know. It oversees prices, on-time delivery service, and more. For example, the PRC recently began an important public inquiry on proposed changes to the postal network. The PRC's oversight work is absolutely essential, and to help to hold the Postal Service accountable to its mission of reliably serving every community and delivering to every address in this great country of ours. You have had decades of experience as an executive at the Postal Service, touching on multiple aspects of its operation. So my question for you, sir, is how would you shift from the Postal Service to the PRC and apply your experience to ensure that the Commission acts as a strong regulator?
Thank you, Senator. Throughout my entire career, whether military or Postal Service, and then afterwards at the International Post Corporation, I have always been fully dedicated to the job that I'm given to at that point in time. I view my experience as an executive at the Postal Service as giving me strength to perform that much better as a commissioner because I fully understand how the operation takes place. But at the same time, my loyalty is to fulfill what my role is as a commissioner and all of the provisions that the legislation dictates under Title 39. Again, my career has been about service to my country, and whatever job I'm assigned to, or in this case, was nominated and hopefully confirmed to, I'm more than willing and wanting to do that.
Very good. My next question will be to our judicial nominees here, so Special Master Oller, Judge Pipe, and Mr. Willoughby, and we'll go in that order. I'll ask all three of you to answer this question. As all three of you know very well, the associate judges on the Superior Court face very heavy caseloads right now, especially as the court struggles with many vacancies that are pervasive. So my question to each of you is going to be, how has your experience prepared you for the significant challenge that you will face, if confirmed, to serve on an already strained court? We'll start with Special Master Oller, and then to Judge Pipe, and then Mr. Willoughby.
Thank you for the question, Senator. During the course of my 26-year legal career, I have had the opportunity to serve for nearly 9 years now as a judicial officer. 6 years in my current position as a special master on the United States Court of Federal Claims. And in that capacity, I preside over a very heavy docket. We have a high docket in our court. Additionally, in terms of criminal experience, not only as a litigator, where I worked in the United States Air Force as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney, but I also served as a criminal trial judge, where I presided over criminal cases. So my experience as a judicial officer, I would draw on that, and I would attempt to be diligent, as I have in the past, to work through cases efficiently, to make sure that my expectations were completely understood by the parties to the litigation, and to come to court each day as prepared as possible to be sure that the proceedings were both efficient and fair.
Very good. Judge Pipe?
Thank you, Senator. As a magistrate judge in Superior Court for the last 3.5 years, I have presided over some of the most high-volume calendars in Superior Court. I have run those calendars efficiently and fairly by coming first to the courtroom prepared on the law and the facts. I set reasonable deadlines for the parties, and I make my expectations known for every hearing before me. I allow the parties to argue the issues so that they may be heard, and then I deliver my rulings by objectively applying the law to the facts as they are presented. If I am fortunate enough to be confirmed, I would continue that practice as an associate judge.
Very good, Judge. Mr. Willoughby?
Yes, thank you, Senator. I draw upon my experience of nearly 14 years as a prosecutor, investigating and prosecuting hundreds of cases. I'm a accustomed to working in a fast-paced and high-volume working environment, have appeared regularly in courts in 2 different jurisdictions. And I believe it's important to adjust to a role if fortunate enough to be nominated by preparing each day, making sure that the parties that are before you have an understanding, a clear and concise understanding of what's expected of them, and to ensure that all parties are treated fairly and respectfully. I think that's the best way to move the docket along and to ensure that the court operates in an efficient manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Willoughby. Mr. Day, the Postal Service Reform Act, which I led and worked to enact in the last Congress, required that the Postal Service create a publicly available online dashboard where customers could see online or on-time delivery data for their local community, to see exactly how their local post office is performing on a daily basis. Under the Act, the PRC created regulations for this system and will continue to monitor it. You clearly have significant experience with monitoring and managing service data, so my question is, if confirmed, how would you work to ensure that the Postal Service faithfully reports service data as required by the law so that it's accurate, that it's detailed, and actually a useful tool for the public?
Thank you, Senator. You're correct. I mean, I do have extensive experience in this. I certainly will fulfill my role as a member of the commission and work with the Postal Service. As I indicated in my remarks, I do want to make sure that we continue to emphasize that positive working relationship. Does not always mean we agree, but positive working relationship with the leadership at the Postal Service. There is a wealth of data that is available. I'm fully aware of how that system works. They have near real-time information, and I just want to make sure that we're taking best advantage to keep that information up to date, and as the Reform Act requires, make it publicly available. But yes, I think my experience and knowledge of how that system works will be very helpful to make sure we have, again, a positive professional working relationship to make sure that's all in place.
Very good. Senator Blumenthal, you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, when Mr. Taub was here, I asked him about local service, and I know you're not in charge of operational matters, but I have to tell you that town officials and citizens in 2 of our communities, Ridgefield and Litchfield, have requested that the Postal Service authorize a lease of a small portion of property in those 2 towns, Ridgefield and Litchfield, to facilitate local building projects that will enhance the neighborhood. And actually, the downtown area that the Postal Service serves, they've been subject to lengthy month-long reviews and been denied without sitting down and trying to find common ground. So my question to you is, when the Postal Service fails to be responsive to a local community like that, is it within your authority, and will you feel an obligation to come to the aid of those kinds of communities?
Yes, Senator. My understanding, and as I've read Title 39 and understood how the commission works, there are definitely processes and procedures that are defined in the manner in which the Postal Service should deal with local communities. I can tell you from my own experience as a district manager, I did spend a great deal of time working with local officials to make sure we could provide, as a member of the Postal Service, the best service possible. As a member of the commission, our obligation is to comply with the guidelines provided in Title 39 to provide the oversight of what the Postal Service does to ensure that they're following those policies and procedures. And I can assure you, I'm sure the current commissioners are doing it, and myself, if I'm approved to be, confirmed to be a commissioner, I'll do the same.
What do you think about electric vehicles? Can they be used more widely?
Senator, I could go on for hours on electric vehicles. I am the former sustainability officer at the U.S. Postal Service. I was heavily engaged. I can actually say, as the Vice President of Engineering, we were running a test with one of the auto manufacturers in 2001 with electric vehicles. So I've engaged with it for a long time. It definitely can be done. There are challenges, but we can meet those challenges. My experience with working with posts around the world who have electrified major portions of their fleet, I'm fully aware of how that's been done, and I'm aware of the challenges that they've met. It is the right thing to do. We ought to do it. It's the right thing. We've got to deal with climate change. But at the same time, I don't write it off as an easy thing to do.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Scott, you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Chairman. First off, congratulations to each of you for your nomination, and I wish you the best of luck as you go through the process. I've never heard anything but it's a pain in the butt, so I wish you the best. I really just have questions today for Mr. Day. So first off, I think we all like the Postal Service. We like to get nice things in the mail, and I think Postmaster General DeJoy is doing a great job. Can you just, I've never understand why the post office can't make money. Can you explain that?
Senator, thank you very much for that question.
I thought I'd start with an easy one, right?
I wish it were an easy one. There is no easy answer to that. I suppose if I did have it, I'd be in a different position today. But it is the balance between universal service obligations, a commitment to provide a service to the entire country, geographically, as well as the full population. That is not an easy thing to do, but it has been done well through the history of the Post Office Department and then the Postal Service. I think right now, in particular, the financial challenge is because of this dramatic shift in the product that's being handled by the Postal Service. I started in the Postal Service in 1984, and for the first almost 20 years or so of my career, it was nothing but growth. And growing organizations with growing product, growing revenue, are a bit easier to manage financially. And in fact, by 2006, the Postal Service had paid off all debt and was showing a profit. However,
When you left, you should say, and that's when I left. I don't know what happened, right?
I wish the timing were so, but no, Senator, I was still there. The reality is we've also gone through a shift. This is a huge technology shift with e-communications and e-commerce, and it's dramatically shifting the business of the Postal Service and how it's conducted. So unfortunately, my closing answer is there is no easy answer to this, but I think in the end, the Postal Service must fulfill its obligation to serve this country as best it possibly can and all of its citizens.
So do you feel comfortable, or what can you do to ensure that costs are properly attributed and taxpayers are not sustaining U.S. Postal Service package delivery? Because my understanding is that the taxpayer shouldn't be on the hook for that. Is that your understanding on the package delivery side?
Yes, Senator. One of the aspects of the role of the Regulatory Commission is to ensure that in the rate process, the rate-making process, there is proper assignment of cost to the various products, the market-dominant and the competitive products. Again, because the Postal Service is undergoing this significant shift in its very core to its business, it's important that cost attribution continue to be looked at. That is part of the responsibility of the Regulatory Commission. It needs to be reviewed and will be reviewed on an ongoing basis. And so that is a critical aspect of what the Commission will do, as well as the rate-making process itself.
So the Postal Service was projected, I guess, we're supposed to break even after we made the change with this, what was a year or so ago. We did the congressional relief on the retirement benefits, and it hasn't happened. Can you explain that?
Senator, again, I wish I would have the full answer to that question. I have, particularly as a member of the public, I've been reading and keeping up on the situation, but I don't have the full depth of knowledge to understand it fully. I will say this, again, as I said in my opening remarks, I do fully understand that the Postal Service needs to modify the network. I don't disagree with that. The plan that was put out and the objective of breaking even in 2023 will not be achieved. To a large extent, I can understand part of that due to, as they planned for 23, they didn't fully understand inflation and what it would be and what the impact could be. With that said, now as they go forward to 24, inflation should be understood as they make that plan. And so I would expect this is the year, if this plan is going to be successful, we should start to see the break even, if not a slight profit. If we go through another year where it's not performing, then there's no longer the inflation was the reason. We may need to probably take a look at the plan itself. But I think they can achieve success in 24 and hope they do.
So my understanding is what the post office puts out is that they are making money in some areas, but then they're losing money overall. Is that your understanding?
That's my basic understanding, Senator. I mean, I go back to my days of operations. Reading the Delivering for America plan, there's a shift of activity, how things will be transported, the logistics network, the processing, the delivery. There's the trade-off, and I think that's got to be the critical part. There are things you do in redesigning a network that will save you money in one place, but cost you money somewhere else. Obviously, the best solution, the one that's going to get you to break even or profit, you'd better have a bigger savings than you have of cost, and that's the key.
Do you think it's appropriate to have third-party audits of the Postal Service to make sure it's pricing properly?
Senator, just to be sure I understand, so a third party.
Do you think we would do a better job with pricing if we used the outside group to do it, basically?
Senator, I'd have to take a closer look and fully understand how that might be done. To me, the Postal Service is an independent organization that has responsibility for the bottom line, to generate revenue, to reduce cost, and to hopefully have a break-even or positive net income. If you start taking authority away from someone, I don't know how they're supposed to fully operate. I know if I was running an organization, I would not want someone else deciding the prices of my organization. That's my gut feeling, but I'd have to take a closer look at it to see.
Does the Postal Service do a pretty good job of measuring success and accountability and all those things?
Senator, I don't know how things are going under the current leadership. I can speak to when I was at the Postal Service. I thought they were very good at doing that. Again, I look back to the times when I was responsible for different districts, which were major organizations. I had responsibility for generally 10 to 15,000 employees, $1 billion of revenue. We had very careful measurement of success or failure, and we were held accountable for that. And bottom line is we went into, again, around 2006 as the Postal, not the Postal Reform Act, PAEA was passed in 2006. Postal Service was functioning quite well. Service performance was good, financial performance was good, and I can tell you at a local level, right all the way to the top of the ranks, there was real accountability for what we did.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Senator Carper, recognized for your questions.
Thanks so much. Let me say to you, who served in the Army, and I'm a Navy guy for many years, and different uniforms, same team, and we're grateful for your service in that regard. I've always said that whoever is, if they're in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and they are married or have a family, the family serves as well. So I would say to your wife, thank you for your service too. As Chairman knows, I had a long-standing interest in Postal Service and will probably take that with me to the grave. In fact, my wife, when she asked me what I want on my tombstone for when I pass from this earth, I always tell her, how about return to sender? She's still working on that, so we'll see how it works, it turns out. But we're delighted to have you before us as a nominee, and thank you for all of your service. I want to say welcome again to our judicial nominees. We've not always been very timely in terms of the ways how quickly we handle nominees for the District of Columbia judgeships, And I know this chairman has been more judicious in moving them along. Justice delayed is justice denied. And so thank you for your willingness to go through this process. I want to ask, we have votes underway right now. I'm supposed to be, I have like a couple of minutes before I can get there and vote, and then time will expire. But a question, if I could, for you, Mr. Day, reflecting back on your time as part of the Postal Service and your experience outside of government and in the military, what would you say are some of the hallmarks of an effective commissioner of the PRC? What some of the hallmarks of really an excellent commissioner in this day and age? And if confirmed, how do you plan to uphold those standards in order to ensure the Postal Service is meeting its obligation and making strides to improve service for its customers? I'll just tell you, in our state, over the last several years, at times the service has been very disappointing. Very disappointing. A fair amount of work has been done to change that. But I'm all about service, and I know you are too. But go ahead. Again, I'm looking for some of the hallmarks of an effective commissioner. Go ahead.
I think there's several things. There's the commission itself. I would just comment quickly on my own views, Senator. As I've looked at, again, 45 years of service, it's hard to believe it's been that long, but I learned it in the military and it's continued. It's what is good leadership, and to me it's trust and integrity. I want to work with people that I can trust. I think that'll be true at the commission, but it's just as true we need to have trust and integrity between the commission and the Postal Service leadership. Again, trust and integrity is critical. What's key to me, being a commissioner, is, again, improve the relationship where it's necessary between the commission and the leadership of the Postal Service, but it's also enabling the staff and the technology that's available at the commission to do the job effectively. The real mission of the Regulatory Commission, yes, is oversight, but it needs to be done in an efficient and accurate manner, a timely manner, so that decisions can be rendered quickly to the Postal Service. And so I want to make sure that and the staff has already done this, but there's always room for improvement, that everything is up to speed, technically capable, and a good, solid staff to do it with.
Good, thank you. The Postal Service has, as you know, maybe, if not the largest, one of the largest fleets in the country. And for many, many years, the fleet has aged older and older and older. Not always very reliable. But one thing that we guys count on those vehicles to do is pollute the air. And there's an effort underway now to update the fleet, to phase out the dirty polluting vehicles. And when you look at the major sources of carbon pollution in our country, which we're witnessing the results of these days, hottest year on record, hottest summer, hottest record, incredible flooding and stuff like that. The biggest cause of climate change in this country is mobile sources, including our vehicle fleets and stuff. Second is manufacturing. Third, it would be power plants. But the biggest one is mobile sources. So what the path that the Postal Service is on now, it's important to stick to it. All right, it's really important. Set a leadership by example. I'd ask you to do that. I have, I think, 2 minutes to go, but for our judicial noms, could it just take a minute each? Ms. Oller, would you take a minute? Could you all take a minute to share with us, in spite of the backlog and judicial vacancies that the court is currently facing, how will you ensure that your fellow Americans are expeditiously and justly granted their day in court? What can you do? We're trying to do a better job at our end. What can you do to make sure that happens? Go ahead.
Thank you for the question, Senator. I have served not only as a special master now for almost 6 years, but as a trial judge in the United States Air Force for 3 years. And in addition to that,
Navy Sluice Air Force. We need a Marine here. We'll have it.
Thank you, Senator. In addition to that, I've also been a prosecutor, a senior level felony prosecutor, a defense attorney, the chief prosecutor. I've had many roles in the litigation arena. And as a result of that, I've developed a deep appreciation for the rights of the parties to a litigation to be heard. And so if I were fortunate enough to be confirmed for this position, I would approach my cases the same way that I have in the past, which is through hard work, through effective communication to make sure that the parties to the litigation understand my expectation, and by coming to court as prepared as possible each day so that the proceedings can be fair and efficient.
Good, thank you. That's great. Ms. Pipe, same question, just briefly, please. Go ahead.
Thank you for the question,
You bet.
Senator. How I have handled the backlog and delays so far.
Is your mic on?
I'm sorry?
Is your mic on?
Is my mic on?
Yeah.
It is? I just need to lean in
Okay.
closer.
Thank
Usually
you.
I'm quite loud. I'll try to be louder. How I have handled the cases in the last 3.5 years as a sitting magistrate judge is I hear every case before me without delay. I come in prepared so that I can quickly and objectively and efficiently apply the law to the facts and give the rulings and be clear and transparent with those rulings so that the parties and the community can understand the process and instill confidence in the system.
All right, good. Thank you. Mr. Willoughby?
Yes, thank you, Senator. I'd agree with my co-nominees. I might just add that during my time as an assistant U.S. attorney here in the District of Columbia, I've had an opportunity to appear before multiple judges in various courtrooms. And I would just note in adding what my co-nominee said, in addition to preparation, is to ensure that the parties that are before you understand what your expectations are as well, and that's that they be prepared, that they treat each other with courtesy and respect. And I would also add that, again, I believe that does instill confidence in the process and in the community as they appear before the court. Thank you.
Those are all encouraging responses. We wish you good luck in this confirmation process, and if confirmed, good luck, God bless. Thanks. And Navy salutes all of you. Thanks. And so does Delaware. Take care. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Carper. Well, I want to thank our nominees once again for joining us here today and for your willingness to serve in these important positions. The nominees have filed responses to biographical and financial questionnaires, and without objection, this information will be made part of the hearing record, with the exception of the financial data, which is on file and available for public inspection in the committee offices. The hearing record will remain open until 12 p.m. tomorrow, September, it says September 8th here, but that's not tomorrow. So it's the 22nd. It'll be open for the submission of statements and questions for the record. This hearing is now adjourned.